Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, wherever you're joining us from. Right now, whether you're sitting in your office, lying on your couch, I am so glad you make time for this today. My name is Loretta Ngweve CPL, and today we are going to have a conversation that I genuinely believe every single person on this planet needs to have. So now, before I get into anything, I want to do something a little different. Instead of me just talking, talking to you for the next hour. I want you with me. I want this to feel like a conversation between us, because that is what it is. So if you're watching live, please use that comment section, type where you're joining from, say hello, and let me know you are there. Now, before now, last week, May 5th, the world observed International Day of the Midwife, and I know many of you marked it. Some of you shared posts, some of you put up stories. Some of you said Happy Midwife Day to a colleague or a friend, and that is beautiful, genuinely. That is beautiful. But here's what I want us to do today. I do not want us to just observe, I do not want us to just post and move on. I want us to actually stop, like sit down and truly understand the people we are celebrating last week. Because honestly, if I asked most people right now to tell me exactly what a midwife does, I mean, really does, from the beginning of the pregnancy, to months after birth, most people could not give me a full answer, and that is not their fault. Okay, and it is a gap in how we talk about this profession, a gap that this program is going to fill today. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to learn together. We're going to hear real stories. We're going to face some uncomfortable truths. And by the time we leave here today, I want every single one of us, every single one, to be a real, genuine, informed advocate for midwife, and not just on May 5th every day. Are you ready? Because I am. So let's go. Now, um, who is a midwife? Yeah, because I know so many would like, okay, so what is midwife all about? Who is a midwife? And I'm going to be explaining that to us right now. But first of all, let me start with the most basic question. Like I said, what is a midwife? Or if you know the answer, you can just put that on the comment section. Okay, and I know I already know some of you are thinking, is that not just um, you know, the woman who helps pushed when you're heavy, as when you're having a baby. And I understand why you think that. That is the image most of us grew up with. But if that is the full picture you have of a midwife, then we have a lot of ground to cover today, and I am excited, to cover it for you. Now, a midwife is a trained, qualified healthcare professional who specializes in pregnancy, childbirth, the postnatal period, and the reproductive health of women and their newborns. But let me make that real for you. Let me talk, walk you through what that actually looks like in practice. Before labor starts, during those months of pregnancy, the midwife is already there. She's monitoring your blood pressure, she's tracking how the baby is growing week by week. She's the person you call when you wake up 2 a.m., scared that something feels off. She's checking for signs of anemia, of gestational diabetes, of preeclampsia, things that if missed can kill. And she's answering the question that the first time mother is too embarrassed, to ask in a formal medical center. So she is the one who looks as a frightened woman in the eye and says, "You're doing beautifully, and the baby is fine. You're going to be okay." And that is before the baby even arrives. So then comes labor, and I want you to stop for a moment and really think about what labor is for most women. It is one of the most physical, emotional, well-meaning, spiritual, spiritually significant experiences of their entire lives. The pain is real, the fear is real, the uncertainty is real. And in that room, in those hours, it is often the midwife who is right there with her, holding her hand, coaching her through every single construction, watching the baby's heart rate, watching the mother's vitals, making split second clinical decisions that can genuinely be the difference between life and death. And I want to say that again because I do not think we say it enough. A midwife makes life and death decisions. Every single shift she does it while also being the calm human presence that a laboring woman desperately needs. And when the baby finally arrives, when that tiny person takes their first breath and cries for the very first time, the midwife is still not done. She's helping mama, begin to breastfeed, which sounds simple, but is actually one of the most challenging things for most new mothers and requires genuinely skilled support. She's monitoring the baby for early signs of jaundice, breathing issues, feeding difficulties. She's watching the mother for postpartum hemorrhage. She's checking, for signs of infection. She's watching for postnatal depression. You know, she's providing family planning guidance. She's checking in on the emotional health of a woman whose whole world has just changed overnight. So from before birth, through birth and after birth, the midwife is there. She's not a supporting character in the story of pregnancy and childbirth, but she's often the lead. And I want to add one more thing before we moved on. Midwife is not only about birth. A midwife also provides genealogical care. She supports women um, through miscarriages and loss. She provides sexual health services, cervical screening, um, cons- contraception, and menopause support. She's a reproductive health professional across the full arc of a woman's life. And have you or anyone close to you ever been cared for by a midwife? I want you to type yes or no in the comments right now. Okay, now um every single years is those comments, like in those comments is real life, a real baby, a real family, a real woman who needs someone skilled, and present and human, and found that in a midwife. And that is what this profession does every single day. Now let us talk about this year's theme, because it is not just a phrase. It is not just a campaign slogan. It is a global emergency call. And once I explain what is behind it, I think you will feel the urgency the same way I do. And the theme for this year's International Day of the Midwife 2026 is 1 million more midwives. 1 million more. And when I first heard that, my immediate reaction was, wait, we are shot by a million, just 1 million. Like, you can imagine that. And the answer is yes, because research published this year confirms that the world currently has a shortage of close to 1 million midwives. And this is not a problem isolated to one country or one region. Like, every part of this world is affected, sub-Saharan African, South Asia, Southeast Asia, Latin America, parts of Eastern Europe and Central Asia. So every region needs more midwives. Africa alone carries approximately 47% of that global shortage. But I want to be very clear, and I will say this directly. This is not just an African problem, this is a global failure of investment, a failure of priority, a failure of political will, like everywhere. So, what is 1 million more midwives actually calling for? And that is a question that everyone should be asking. It is a campaign, a petition, a demand to government, to health ministries, to international bodies, to decision makers everywhere. Invest in midwife, train more midwives, retain the ones you have, pay them what they are worth, give them the equipment they need, give them the legal authority to do their jobs, give them the respect they have always deserved. And here is the data behind why this matters so much. Studies show that if you achieve um, universal midwife coverage by 2035, we could prevent 67% of all maternal deaths worldwide, 64% of newborn deaths, 65% of all stillbirths, and we are talking about more than 4 million lives, 4 million every single year. Now, let me sit with that number for just a moment. 4 million lives every year with midwives, not with a new drug, not with expensive technology, with midwives, with skilled, equipped, supported midwives being where they are needed. And that is it. That is the solution sitting right in front of us. So when we say 1 million more, we are not talking about a nice idea for a campaign poster. We're talking about a lifeline, a literal lifeline for 4 million people a year who do not have to die. Now, why midwives matter? I want to go deeper now because sometimes statistics feel distant and they feel abstract, a number on the screen. So I'm going to bring this, to the level that we are going to understand. Every 2 minutes, right now, we sit, as we sit together, a woman somewhere in the world dies from a pregnancy or childbirth related cause, not every 2 hours, not every 2 days, like every 2 minutes. Every year, approximately 2.3 million newborns die within the first 28 days of life. 2.3 million babies who took their first breath and then were gone. Most of them from causes that were preventable, most of them from things that a skilled midwife with the right equipment and support could have caught and addressed. And nearly 2 million babies are stillborn every year. 2 million families who waited and hoped and prepared and then left the hospital with empty hands. And the painful truth is that the vast majority of these deaths do not have to happen. You know, they happen because of who was in the room, because of the care that was not available, because of the shortage we are talking about today. But I also want to tell you the things midwives do that we almost never talk about, because the conversation about midwifery to often start and ends at delivery, and the work goes so much further. Midwives are one of the most powerful tools we have to reduce unnecessarily cesarean section. You know, C-section rates have been rising globally, including in contexts where surgery is not medically needed, and unnecessarily C-sections carry, like they carry very serious risks for both mother and baby. Midwife-led care consistently, results in fewer unnecessary interventions and better outcomes. Now, midwife provides contraception and family planning, giving women and families real choices and real power over their own reproductive lives. Midwives help reduce mother to child transmission of HIV, still a critical priority in many parts of the world. Midwives are often the very first responders, in obstetric emergencies. They work in floods, in conflict zones. They work hours into rural communities where the nearest doctor may be half a day's travel away. They set up clinics in the backs of trucks. They deliver babies by torchlights. They make decisions in the dark that save two lives at once. And this profession is extraordinary, like extraordinary. And it is under resourced, like under recognized and undervalued. And we are going to talk about that. But first, a story. I'm going to give us a story first before we continue. Okay, there's a midwife in Ethiopia named Dewit Samro. Today he runs a midwifery school at university, like university hospital, training the next generation. But his story starts when he was just 10 years old. His mother was in labor. She was with a traditional birth attendant, a woman from the community with minimal formal training, and then something went very wrong. His mother's life was at risk, and that 10-year-old boy was in the room watching, was terrified, not understanding what was happening, just knowing something was very, very wrong. And then the midwife came. They came, they assessed, they acted, and then they saved his mother's life. He never forgot it, and so he grew up carrying that memory, the terror, and then the relief, and then this deep certain understanding of what it means to have a skilled person show up when you need them most. He trained, he became a midwife himself, and today the midwives he trains go out, into communities across Ethiopia and beyond. One midwife saved his mother, and that one midwife became the reason hundreds of other midwives exist. And all those hundreds are saving thousands of women. Now, that is what we are talking about when we say 1 million more. Not just numbers, ripples, like one life saved becomes many lives saved. And the son of a woman who almost died, choosing to make sure that other women do not. And I want to open the floor now. Does anyone here have a personal story of a midwife who made a difference, for you or for someone you love or someone you know? Please share it in the comment section because we want to hear from you. Now, we've been talking about midwives, but I also want us to hear from them, from you. I want us to understand this work from the inside. So I spoke with some midwives ahead of this program. I asked them one question, what is one thing you wish the public truly understood about your work? And I'm going to share some of what they told me. Now, one midwife said, people think our job is straightforward. They see us in films holding a baby smiling. What they do not see is a shift before that one. When we lost a mother, when we did everything right and it still was not enough. That stays with you and we do not talk about it, but it stays with you forever. Now, another midwife said, I want people to understand that when I walk into a delivery room, I carry the likes of two people on my shoulders. Every decision I make in the next few hours, every observation, every reading, every call, these decisions matter, and sometimes I am making them alone with limited resources and no backup. So I want people to understand that weight. And then the third midwife told me, I love this work. I deeply, genuinely love it. The moment of a baby is born and the room changes, there's this, like there's nothing like it in the world, but I am exhausted. I have been exhausted for years, not tired from one hard week. The kind of exhaustion that comes from years of too many patients, too few resources, and feeling like nobody is listening. And one more, I have a medical degree. That is from the fourth person. I have done postgraduate training. I have years of experience, and there are still moments when I walk into a room and a doctor speaks over me like I am invisible. The disrespect is not always loud. Sometimes it is very quiet, but it is there. So I believe most of you now have heard from what some midwives are passing through. Their complaints, their truths, and part of truly celebrating midwives, truly honoring this profession, is being willing to hear the truth of what they live with every day. So if you're a midwife or you work closely with midwives and you're watching right now, please drop it in the comments. What is one thing you wish the public truly understood? Because we are listening. Now I'm going to list out the challenges midwives face. So now I want us to have an honest, eyes open conversation, because truly celebrating midwives also means seeing them clearly and not just one beautiful part. They are the difficult part too. Seeing them clearly means acknowledging what they are up against every single day. One, we have under, um, understaffing and overwork. That is one of the challenges midwives face: understaffing and overwork. In many hospitals and clinics, are around the world, and this includes hospitals in our own countries, one midwife is responsible for far more women than she should ever have to handle. She's running from one room to the next. She has not sat down with hers. She hasn't eaten. And there are three women in active labor, and she's the only one there. And then the fourth woman comes in and needs her immediately. So tell me, how will she do? She's and then like she's being born out, in a mid like when midwives are being born out and they do not born out because they are human. So they leave the profession, and when they leave, the colleague who stay carry even more, and so the load gets heavier, more people leave, and it is a cycle, and so it is getting worse, and it will not be broken by asking the ones who remain to work harder. So it will only be broken by investment and staffing. So these are one of the challenges midwives are facing. And number two challenge, we have low pay and poor recognition. Low pay and poor recognition. In many countries, midwives are severely underpaid relative to the life saving, high stakes, deeply skilled work they do every single day. They are sometimes not seen as equals to other healthcare professionals, even though the clinical complexity of their work is just as high, but the training is just as rigorous and the stakes are just as real. And because midwifery is a predominantly female profession, it also faces all the systematic gender bases that undervalue women's labor across um, every sector. So we need to name that because it is part of the story. And then the number three challenges they face is lack of equipment and resources. There are midwives right now, like today, delivering babies in facilities with no running water, no reliable electricity, no gloves, no um, oxytocin to stop a mother from bleeding, to death after delivery, no way um, to um, to recirculate a baby who is not breathing. So they are doing miracles with their knowledge and their hands and their hearts and almost nothing else. I remember when my uncle had his first child at General Hospital, Nasarawa State. I remember vividly well that there was no water. Like, imagine you have a baby and there's no water to even bath a newborn baby. Like, my uncle had to go home, carry water from the house, like hot water, and start coming back to the hospital for, like, because his wife gave birth through CS, and so we were in the hospital for like 5 days and no water. So I can imagine what they are really passing through. So that should not be happening anywhere. Like in 2026, a midwife should never walk into a delivery room without what she needs to do, her job. And the fact that she does every day in communities across the world is not a failure, it is hers. Now, the number four challenge that the midwife faces are, being excluded from decisions that affect their world. Midwives are the people closer to the ground. They know what women need. um, they have seen with their own eyes, with their own hands, what works and what does not. And yet, in so many health systems, midwives are not included in policies and decisions that shape their profession, decisions about midwifery training, scope of practice, drug availability. It's often made in rooms where midwives are not sitting, so that has to change. And if you want to fix midwifery, you have to include midwives in the fix. And the number five challenges is the impact of international aid cuts. The impact of international aid cuts. So I want to name this directly because it is happening right now and we cannot pretend it is not. This year, significant cuts to global health and have disrupted maternal health programs across low and middle income countries. Programs that funded midwifery training have been suspended. Supply chains for essential medicines, the drugs that stop a mother from bleeding to death after delivery have been broken. And community health programs that depend on international funding have been cancelled or frozen without warning. And the people paying the price are not the people who made those decisions. It is the mother in a remote village who can no longer access um, antenatal care. So it is the baby who did not survive because the drug was not there. It is the midwife who is now working with even less than she had before and still showing up. So we have to name those things. Silence does not protect mothers, and silence does not hold decision makers accountable. Now, okay, so we've learned together, we have sat with the numbers, and we have heard the stories. We have faced some hard truths, and now, right now, it is time to celebrate, not in a superficial way, not in a social media way. Genuinely celebrate the people we have been talking about today, because today and every day, midwives deserve to be seen. So I want to speak directly to every midwife who is watching or listening right now. Whether you're at home after a long night shift and you cannot quit sleep yet, whether you're at work and you have 5 minutes between patients and you sneak your phone out just for a second, whether you're sitting somewhere with a cup of tea that has gone cold because it kept getting called away, whether you're here, I want you to hear this, you are not invisible. We see the house you put in when no one is watching. We see the hands you hold in the delivery room at 3 in the morning when a woman is terrified and the only steady thing in that room is you. We see the calm you bring when everything around you is not calm. We see the decisions you make in second, decisions that carry two lives in them, and we see you make them well over and over again without fanfare and often without thanks. You see the way to carry home, the deliveries that did not go the way you prayed they would, the mother you could not save, the baby who did not breathe. You know you carry those. You know they do not stay at the hospital. They come home with you, and we want you to know that we see that too. That grief is not weakness, it is love, and it is what happened when you're giving everything you have to someone and still come back the next day to give it again. And we see the joy, the face you make when a healthy baby takes its first breath, and that room fills with crying. The baby crying, the mother crying, you're trying very hard not to cry, but crying a little anyway. And we see that that joy is real and that is yours and it is hand. You choose a profession that asks everything of you: your knowledge, your hands, your emotional presence, your physical endurance, your institution, your compassion, and you show up for it every single day, even on the days when it is hard, even on the days when you are not sure you have anything left, you still show up. On behalf of every mother whose hand you held, every baby who took their first breath because you were in that room, every family that went home whole because of what you did, thank you from the very bottom of our hearts. Thank you. So everyone watching in the comments right now, type the name of a midwife you want to celebrate today. If you can tag them, tag them. Let us fill this comment section with names. Let us make a wall of honor right here, right now. And Also, we are coming to the end of our time together, and before I let you go, I want to leave you with something to carry forward, something real. What happened last week on May 5th was important, It was a moment, it was a reminder, but a moment is not a movement, and a moment without action fade. Real support looks different. Real support is action. And every week, every month, all year long, I want to tell you exactly what that can look like practically, concretely, things you can actually do after this program ends. Number one, sign the global petition for 1 million more midwives. The link is on your screen now. Million more org. It takes less than 2 minutes. You put it on your name, you press submit, and that name goes directly to policymakers and health ministries and government officials. Your name on that petition is your voice on the global stage. It is small, it is fast, and it matters. So please do it. And number two, share what you learned today. Share this program on WhatsApp, put it on your Instagram, post it on Facebook, send it to that group chat, tag a midwife, tag a new mother, tag your member of parliament, tag your Ministry of Health. The more people who understand what we talk about today, the shortage, the stakes, and the solutions, the stronger this movement becomes. You are now an informed person on this topic, so I want you to use that. Number three, ask questions in your community and in your country. If you are in any position to advocate in your workplace, your professional network, your community, with the people who represent you in government, start asking. Ask what is being done to train more midwives in your country. Ask about the ratio of midwives to births in your region. Ask about pay and working conditions. Ask what happened to the programs that were cut. Ask what the plan is, and do not let those questions be silent. Silence is how this shortage persists. And number four, the simplest one and the most human one, the next time you encounter a midwife in a clinic, in a hospital, or even passing by, stop, make eye contact, and say thank you. Just those two words for someone, you know, who gives everything she has to the care of strangers. For someone who carries like loses she never fully talks about, and joys she shares completely. So these two words can mean more than you know. The world needs 1 million more midwives, but the world also needs 1 million more people who understand why that matters. 1 million more people who can name the shortage, explain the stakes, and speak up for this profession, whether they have access and influence. 1 million more people who refuse to let midwives remain invisible. You are one of those people now. So came here today, you listened, you're engaged, you're carrying this forward. Last week was International Day of Midwife, and today we carry it forward. So please just meet a midwife anyway, and just appreciate her, because it is not easy. You don't know what most of them are passing through. So, before I close, thank you so much for spending this time, you know, with me. Thank you to every midwife who tuned in, and I hope you feel seen today, because you are. Yes, you are. And thank you to everyone who shared the story, answered the poll, typed the name, and sat with the hard parts without looking away. Thank you so much. And please don't forget to like, comment, and also subscribe to this channel. And also, you can also share this link to your friends around you. Like I said earlier on, I want you to go out there, talk to a midwife, appreciate her. Just tell them she deserves it. Like just say sweet words to her, and it will mean a lot to her. So thank you so much once more. See you all next week.